Hey everyone, welcome to GameXplain's overall Game of the Year discussion, where we're each giving our top 3 picks of the year with the second and third runner-ups first. Then we'll go around one more time for our overall Game of the Year. Should be a fun discussion. We're joined by Jake, Joey, Tom, Tris, and Adam, one of our more recent but frequent contributors, who I think has had the most reviews on the channel this year. How many have you done, Adam, for us this year?
Like 30 or something. Something like that. Now, don't quote me on that as 30. I might hold the Guinness World Record for most games reviewed this year, but you know, it hasn't been official, but I'll take it. Well,
maybe we'll get that official. So we had to have you on for this discussion, given the fact you probably played the most games of everyone this year. So, as I said, we're going to go around in order with each of us giving our second and third runners-up, I guess, or first and second runners-up, whatever it is, our second and third games of the year. Let's start off with you, Jake. Let's lay it on us. What are your 2 runners-up for this for your game of the year?
Yeah, close but no cigar. It's gotta go to Pokemon Legends Arceus and Immortality.
Oh, so not the latest Pokemons. You're going with Legends.
I'm going with Legends Arceus. Yeah. Scarlet and Violet. It's like these games have legs, and maybe in the future I'll feel differently. But I have never felt better about the A to B campaign, that critical path in a Pokemon game, than Legends Arceus. They made the in-between moments so fun. It's my runner-up. Yeah, Immortality, my second favorite game of the year. It's a Sam Barlow game. You're watching full motion video actors like perform and scrubbing through that footage to uncover a mystery. And it is like some of the best acting I have seen in a long time. You see characters have to act up and act down depending on what kind of movie they're doing and in what time period. And it's the digging. The digging is the game. The way that the game lives in your head as you're trying to piece things together. That's the game. Second favorite game of the year. I absolutely love Immortality.
All right, awesome,
okay.
Cool. How about you, Adam? Let's hear what your top 2 runners-up are.
Well, number 3 is a little game called Tinykin. It's a little 3D platformer, very fun.
I think it's a tiny platformer, actually.
Yeah, I guess so. So, Tinykin, what it reminds me of is like Toy Story 2 on the PlayStation 1, where you're this little guy running around a massive like 90s house, and you have to collect these little Pikmin guys called, I assume they're called Tinykin. And then they're used to like bring in different abilities, like to, you know, climb up really high or to do different things like blow things up. So yeah, it was just like, I love 3D platformers and the graphics are absolutely gorgeous. And then number 2, I was kind of mixed between Ragnarok and Mario and Rabbids, but I gave it to Mario and Rabbids. Nice. Just because I really enjoyed Ragnarok, but it was more the same, where Mario and Rabbids sort of like, it gave the combat a bit more, like it was more kinetic. And then it also gave it a story, even though story isn't too important to me, but it proved that it could have its own story with its own characters instead of just being like a big whole Mario thing, the way the first game was. So that's my number 3 and 2.
You're reminding me I really need to go back to Sparks of Hope. I played it for a few hours on stream and sadly have not gone back to it. So
I haven't even touched it yet, dude. I need to get on.
It's been a busy year. Tom, tell us what your second and third games of the year are.
Well, my second and third games of the year are Shovel Knight Dig and Nobody Saves the World. Shovel Knight Dig, of course, being like a roguelike Shovel Knight game, going down a giant pit, digging deeper and deeper with some new bosses and characters, not quite randomly generated, but stitched together many, like thousands of pieces of levels, so it's still unique every time. I enjoyed it a lot, and it'll tide me over till whenever Shovel Knight appears again. Nobody Saves the World, made by the Drinkbox Studios that made Guacamelee, and this one came out in January. It's called Nobody Saves the World because the main character is just like a white, naked, sort of cartoon man with like no eyes. It looks kind of creepy, but then there's way more other playable characters like a horse, bodybuilder, a rat. Like it's kind of wacky, and you can give them all different abilities. I love the cartoon art style. It reminded me of the wackiness of early Behemoth games. Brought me that type of joy, like doing a lot of drawing back in the day. So those are my 2 and 3 picks.
All right.
I did not realize we had a fellow Nobody Saves the World enjoyer in GameXplain.
You can do co-op too.
That game is awesome. I love that game.
Tom did co-op, and it didn't go very well because we're a whole sea apart and a whole country apart from each other.
All right, let's move on to Tris. What are your second and third games of the year?
All right. Well, while Jake went with Pokemon Legends Arceus, I have to give my number 3 to Pokemon Violet and Scarlet and Violet. I thoroughly enjoyed everything those games bring, performance issues aside, and continuously still keep playing them daily. You know, trying to work on my Pokemon team and everything. It's been a very pleasant experience. And my number 2 has to be Kirby and the Forgotten Land. One of my all-time favorite Kirby games at this point. Really, really fantastic gameplay, world, everything about it is just so good. Gotta love Kirby, come on.
It's true. Kirby is adorable. All right, Joey, how about you? What are your second and third games of the year?
Perfect segue, because my number 3 pick is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. If you told me in the past, at any point in time, that I would have nominated a Kirby game as like one of my favorite games of the year, I would not have believed you. I've never cared for Kirby. I've only ever been mildly interested in Kirby, maybe. But then when Kirby made the jump to 3D, and I saw all those great review scores, one of them being from André, I was like, I need to get this game. I played it. I loved it. My goodness, this game really just, it's 3D platforming perfection, I would say. It is more on the linear side. It's kind of, I feel like it's a better version of Mario 3D World. I know that may be blasphemous to say, but that's legitimately what I think. Yeah, I can't wait for the next 3D outing for Kirby. Maybe I'll even try more of his 2D outings now, because Forgotten Land.
We got one coming up.
Exactly, yeah. But my number 2 pick is God of War Ragnarok, because I love the first game to death. My favorite game of 2018. One of my favorite games of the last decade, right? But like Adam said, it does a lot of the same things still. And I still don't know if it's better than the first game or not as good. It's still amazing though, hence why it's number 2 on my list, right? The combat's still really good. I think it's better than the first game too. I know a lot of people might disagree with me on that, but man, that story, it had some pacing issues, but by the time it ended, just puddle of tears. And on top of it all off, that end credits song with Hosier, I'm just like, oh, so good.
He's my favorite artist, by the way. So
he's Irish, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
Nice.
and he's also like 6'7" and an absolute giant.
Wow.
And his
No
voice is
way.
unbelievable.
Whoa.
Don't get me started on Hosier.
Yeah, but that's pretty much all I have to say. God of War Ragnarok. I wanted it to be my number 1, but we'll talk about that later. It was just because it was more of the same, and you know, more of the same isn't always bad. But yeah, it doesn't win you Game of the Year.
Good point. All right, well, moving on from me, it seems like a common thread this time so far is how good Kirby the Forgotten Land is. That's my third favorite game of the year. It's just a really well done, competent 3D Kirby, which is something we've had to wait a long time for. And it's a game that kind of just keeps ramping up. I mean, by the time you reach the end, like, you're basically in a Dark Souls fight, and it's freaking epic as hell. And it just leaves a really good, lasting impression. And one that's just a promising future for Kirby games. Like, I swear to God, they go back to 2D after this upcoming remake, I'm gonna be upset because I want more 3D Kirbys, and I hope they continue to iterate and build on what they have here, because it's so good, so fun. Mouthful mode's a blast as well. Just a really solid foundation. Second game of the year, my second favorite game of the year this year, Among Us VR. I've already talked about our category awards. This game's amazing. It takes what was already a solid foundation, it just makes it so much better. Like, I enjoyed it before, I'm addicted to it now. It's just a complete blast, and it's a good form of addiction, where it's not because I feel like I need to keep leveling up or whatever. It's just a pure, in fact, there is no leveling up in this game. There's no rankings, there's no, like, matchmaking. It's just pure fun. That's what keeps drawing people back, and adding voice chat to it is amazing. I've talked before about how you can, like, you know, whether it's chasing children around as the imposter and hearing them scream in agony from being killed, or trying to desperately tell your crewmates or the other crewmates that you're not the imposter, or convince them, you know, that whether or not you are, convince them you're not the imposter, or trying to stealth kill people without, like, making a bunch of noise. It's just a complete blast, and having it in the VR perspective really just changes how the game feels overall, and with the voice chat just makes it, you know, that much better. So that's my second favorite game of the year.
I love hearing about Among Us VR. It's true. It's truly like somebody going to a new country and telling me about their experience. I'm like, yeah, that sounds crazy. I gotta do that someday.
It's so good.
That's a great comparison.
So with that covers our second and third games of the year, but that brings us to, of course, the only thing that really matters, being our overall game of the year for each of us. We're gonna go in a little bit deeper on these. We're gonna have a little roundtable discussion for each one. I don't know how long it'll go on for, we'll see. But yeah, let's just kick things off. Adam, what was your overall game of the year for 2022?
Well, I believe there's only one correct answer to this, and it's Elden Ring. I think the thing that Elden Ring did was that it proved that From Software better than just making one style of game. As in Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Sekiro, they were all pretty linear. The thing about them games is that they were so tightly designed And because they were more linear, it was a bit easier, I guess, for them to sort of make it feel as good as it does. And then they just decided, let's put it in an open world. And it's not even like a small open world. It's an absolutely massive open world. And it just worked so good. Like, they make their first open world game and they just prove that they are probably, at this moment in time, the best developer in the world.
Wow.
I think another thing about Elden Ring is that obviously in Dark Souls games you like to have multiple builds and things like that. Even to this day, especially on the Steam Deck, I'm just going back, starting up a character for 15 or 20 hours and just trying out a new build. And just running around and using magic or using a fate build or a dexterity build or going bow. Like, I've probably put like across PS5 and PC maybe like 150, 200 hours into this game, just chipping away at it. Yeah, it's an absolute masterpiece. Like, I've heard people say that 2022 was a pretty bad year for games, but I don't agree. But in a bad year, if people want to say that, it shines even bigger than it does. And I think even, put this game up against Breath of the Wild, I would probably say this would still be my game of the year if this came out the same year, Breath of the Wild. So, it's just simply that good.
A freaking Jake over here with all his faces.
I'm so happy for Adam that he liked this game so much. I'm literally like, I liked it more than Breath of the Wild. I think it's the best. They're the best developers in the world. I'm like, oh my god.
But where's the quote here, Jake? Did you not like Elden Ring? Or are you? I liked Elden Ring.
Oh, I liked Elden Ring.
Are you a Souls fan?
I'm an Elden Ring appreciator. I am not a Souls fan. I've tried to get into Souls games over and over. I even would put that. What's the Star Wars Jedi game, the first one?
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, thank you. I would put that like kind of in this category too.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of the die and then you kind of have to go through the same path again and like, oh, okay, I know I can beat these first 6 guys, but guy number 7 beats me. And I just want to keep replaying him, but I have to go through the first 6. So that's never jived with me. And Elden Ring, I feel like was a game that was like, okay, we're gonna have some contrivances in this game to make people like me feel better about it. And like, Jake, you don't like this? Go any other direction. I think the open world is really nice. I really like Elden Ring. I think there are certain things that I want from a video game that it doesn't quite give me. That hold it back from me being like, oh my god, this is a masterpiece. Like the story, I just cannot get down with Mr. R.R. Martin's hullabaloo. I can't do it. And the way that people talk to each other, it's just like not for me. But like that open world is really something. And I think almost a compliment to the open world is you are effectively doing the same thing throughout the entire game. It is combat encounters. That is the game. And dang, people are playing this for thousands of hours.
Yep.
Like that, like, you know, that's to do something that well is. I understand people that say like, oh man, like Breath of the Wild, you've got all these other options, but to do one thing that well, that it is like the signature of the studio, very similar to other games, make it work in this open world, really cool. Elden Ring's cool.
I feel like the only other game that people have played for thousands of hours this year is Vampire Survivor.
It's addicting.
That was somewhere in the mix for my number 3 spot. But just to touch on what you said there, Jake, like how they've done sort of like an adaptive difficulty, because in previous Souls games there was kind of something like that where they kind of made magic a bit overpowered, and I'm pretty sure they've said, like From Software and Miyazaki have said, that they put magic that way so that if somebody is really struggling, they can just sort of sit back and spam spells.
Right.
But I think having you have all the builds that you can do, and some are easier than others. And to be honest, I actually kind of found magic kind of boring because of how easy it was. But you also have, this boss is a bit too hard. I'm gonna run around and do 10 dungeons over here, and then I'm gonna level up.
Yeah.
Whereas in the other Souls games, there was a linear path. So give or take, you are going to get to this boss at, say, between level 20 and 30, depending on how many souls you spent and how many souls you lost. Whereas in this one, you can fight one boss at 15, or you can also fight him at 100, because there's so much other stuff for you to do.
Yep. Yeah, and, you know, I think it's appropriate to segue to me now, because that's also my game of the year, is Elden Ring. Yes.
Oh, man.
Here's the thing. I've always been a casual Souls fan. I never have beaten a single Souls game, right? I beat Elden Ring because there was just something driving me to want to beat that game. Part of it was just like, if I don't beat this now, I'm never going to beat it. So I wanted to beat it, and I did. You know, the final boss, I got a random player online to come help me, and I was at like 1 health, and so I'm just like, you know, you can take him, So the question, jury's out. Did I beat the game? Who knows? But
jury's out.
Don't listen to the internet. You did, Joe. Don't.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and it's just I always loved how rewarding Souls games feel when you beat a boss. And Elden Ring is definitely rewarding, just beating the entire game and just getting stuck on the same boss over and over and finally beating them. I forget, it was General somebody, the dude who was sliding around the desert. That guy was a real pain, but beating him felt rewarding.
That's one of the best boss fights I've ever experienced.
Yes, it was
it's so good. You summon everyone in, and then you storm towards him, and he's shooting big arrows at you. And I couldn't talk about that in the review, and I really wanted to, but I couldn't.
Joey,
good.
it's funny, you talk about your experience having somebody else kind of really help you with that final boss. I've kind of grown to understand that cheesing is part of these games' design.
Yes. That's true.
I think part of the satisfaction is this idea of, like, in the player's mind of, like, oh, I'm getting one over on the game. And I think that the way that the builds are set up and how you can kind of like min-max things, I think they know that's happening, and I think that's, in a weird way, really satisfying for players, even if it is like, some people might say like, oh, that's so cheesy, you know.
Yeah, I jumped into the game like a month after it came out, though, and by that point they patched a lot of the bosses, so I couldn't cheese them as well.
Right.
But I did love one time, I was fighting more of a mini-boss, I rolled around him, he was near an elevator pit, which was just a pit, no elevator there yet, and so I stabbed him in the back and kicked him down the hole after like struggling with him for so long. Beautiful moment, love Elden Ring. Yeah, and it also came at such a pivotal point in my life where I just moved into my new house. I just had my son. I was playing the game like with him and like while holding him too, like in one of those carriers. So it's just like this game's gonna live on in my life like forever. So I still have yet to start a new build though. So maybe soon, maybe.
I love it.
All right. Wow. Any other the Elden Ring win for anyone else's game of the year here? No. Okay. All right. We'll make sure. All right. I'm gonna hop in here with my own because I think mine might be a bit divisive, just based on how it fits here. Because we had some discussion before we recorded this about what is actually eligible for our own personal picks of game of the year. Like, is it enough that we discovered it this year? And we decided no, it's not. We decided, I believe, that something impactful about the game had to have changed for it to be eligible this year. So my pick did not come out this year. It did not come out last year. It barely came out within the last half decade. And that is, I'm going with Fortnite, baby. Fortnite Zero Build changes the game. It completely changes the game to the point that it's fundamentally basically a new game. A game I had no interest in before. I didn't care about building. It didn't seem like an engaging mechanic to me. I didn't like the fact that people are so good at it that it mitigates, like, it's intimidating to even get into the game at this point. Zero Build, like, even the playfield, it made it so that almost anyone could play it. If you know how to play a shooter, heck, even if you don't know how to play a shooter, you can play it. My dad is basically, like, you know, relatively new to video games in the last 10 years. He's only played a handful of big games over and over, and this is the first first online game period, and he's addicted to this game because it's just so fun. It's you know, as an open world game, effectively an open world multiplayer game, you can play this game in any number of ways. Like, there's no right way to play Fortnite, and that diversity, that level of being able to like have a very freeform experience is just such a compelling and fun way of enjoying it, whether by yourself or with friends. Like, I have not had this much fun with a game, I think, since I was probably a kid. Like, it really took me back to playing multiplayer games with my friends, like I was gonna say basement, but in my bedroom, I guess, the closest to a basement we had, and I have not had that level of thrill with a multiplayer game in decades, and it was just so fun. I'm still playing it almost a year out from this point, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. It just does so much so well, and it's just a complete blast that looks more beautiful than ever now thanks to the 5.1 update. Just a fantastic experience that, you know, it is often joked about, like, oh, it's for kids, but no, I think it's for everyone. Like, I think anyone can get into this game potentially and have a blast doing so, and that's why it's my game of the year, because Zero Build really did make it into what I would consider a whole new game at this point.
I thought you were going to say Mario Kart.
I thought so too, with the build-up.
No, honestly, I like the DLC, but I'm so sick of Mario Kart 8 at this point. I need a new one, so no way Mario Kart gonna be it.
I just reinstalled Fortnite. I still because I want to see how beautiful that game looks now. Because I see those screenshots and I'm like, that is gorgeous. My
Joey,
goodness.
Fortnite on PS5. Oh, it is knee buckling. I can't believe it. It is shocking how good it looks all of a sudden. It's like crazy. I really like this pick. I feel like Fortnite is not only a valid game of the year, I feel like it's easily one of the GOATs. I think it's the greatest of all time in gaming. I like easily. It's just beyond what it is doing. I think for a while it had the cachet of being the Battle Royale game, and I don't even think that's it anymore. I really think that the way it does online events, the way that things are changing, evolving, the rotation of weapons, new mechanics, new cosmetics, it keeps the conversation interesting. Having something like no build. Why didn't they do this years ago? Because now I kind of feel like it was the perfect time. Like, you know what was worth the wait? For Fortnite no build mode.
It's a great point.
Like for real, because now it's like it's more than just no build. You know what I mean? They implemented like the what's that word for like parkouring over stuff that was in like the same update, I think, like while you're mantling. Yeah. And like all that stuff that came in around it, it was like when no build mode came out, it was good. It felt like a new game.
It did. That's actually a great point. Like it already had a solid foundation. Like it ironed out the issues. It was an incredibly solid base by this point. But it's funny if you go back and look at Fortnite videos from like 5 years ago when the game came out, even less than that. It looks like a different game basically. Like the graphics are far less refined. Even before this 5.1 update, the gameplay has been tweaked quite a bit over the years. And and kind of to your point, Jake, too, they're constantly changing the game. The game is not static at all, and they do it in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's never so different that you feel like you're lost, you don't know what to do, but it's different enough that it makes you rethink how you go about things, and I love that. They're introducing new items constantly, changing up what the available inventory is. They just added the new, there's a name for it, the mid upgrade system where you can
the
change.
modifier things.
Modifiers,
yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah.
They're really cool. Yeah.
Can we just? Sorry,
go ahead.
You can keep talking. Oh, I was going to say.
I'm just going forever. So.
All right, cool. Can we just remember this game was announced at the Spike TV Game Awards in 2011?
Heck yeah, Tower Defense.
Came out 6 years later as a tower defense game nobody cared about.
Yep.
Some genius.
Wait, Joey. No, hold it. I cared about it.
Me too. I love the PvE.
I played Fortnite before it was cool.
Yes.
Nice.
And then the Battle Royale
Adam.
came out and it ruined it because they just stopped supporting Save the World. So that was the end of it. But I think with Fortnite, it's like the best multiplayer games like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14. Like just as André was saying, like if you take vanilla WoW versus WoW 3 or 4 years later, they look similar, but there's loads of new additions, and it's the same with Final Fantasy 14.
Yep.
And then I think the thing with no build, I got into it with no build because like I'm generally pretty decent at shooters, but once everyone, when people started to get really good at building and like you shoot them and then all of a sudden they're in a tower.
They build a Taj Mahal. Yeah,
I'm like, what can I do? But I feel like in Zero or in no build I can actually contribute to a fight. So
right.
Yeah.
I want to put out one fun thing. Like André mentioned, the feeling of being a kid playing Fortnite. It reminds me of being a kid playing Capture the Flag in the woods, where it's like kind of weak, and you're trying to hide from other people finding you. Like you're in a group of people, but like sometimes you don't want to be found out. It gives me that sort of feeling of joy in such a huge environment. So.
And Tom, there are actually literally in the latest update flagpoles now that you can capture. But yep.
Nice.
And actually, kind of building off that one more time, like I actually had like my friends bring over their laptops to go play in the same room, just like a classic LAN party back in the day.
Awesome.
Wow, that's fun. That's cool.
Awesome. Fortnite is so cool. I feel like now that we're talking about it, like the map design, the fact that it's like such a holistic experience, you add in a couple of things and it works all so well together. Like now they've got those BMX bikes you can get on that are so
they're so fun.
They're
I love it. You can do stunts.
fun. It feels amazing. It
Kind of like again, you can play it however you want. Like you don't even have to play it. Like you don't have to play it just to survive. Like for a lot of games, you know, losing is frustrating. It's, you know, because it just sucks to find out, like, hey, there's people out there consistently better than me. In Fortnite, no matter what, I'm always having a good time. Like, even when I get wrecked, I'm having a great time. And it's because you can do things like, you know, they also have like the mission objectives you can go after. I usually tend to ignore those, but there's just so much you can do. But Joey, I think you had a point you were going to bring up earlier. I don't know if you fully addressed that.
Oh, just that it's crazy. Somebody at Epic Games saw what PUBG was doing and was like, let's do that. We can do it better. But exactly. It might work out.
I think it actually is a testament to what Fortnite is and what they're capable of, that we're talking about their ability to change, evolve, react, continuously develop, and iterate. And that is something that they did since Fortnite. That is the essence of Fortnite. It was an iteration. It was like, that's what it originally was. So I think that's really cool. It's a very unique story, and like there's very few success stories like that, I think.
Yeah, that's very true.
And to be completely fair to everything surrounding Fortnite, you know, there are cases where it may have crossed the line. You know, what's the difference between it being inspired and ripping off? There's a whole the whole Among Us mode that they basically took wholesale. But by and large, you know, at the end of the day, Fortnite's just a lot of fun, regardless of how it got there. So, all right, that's not Fortnite. Let's move on to Tom's pick. Tom, what is your game of the year for 2022?
Amazing.
Was Tom looking for it?
Yeah. I was getting a drink. So for me, I look back at the year and kind of thought about what was the most memorable to me, what one I maybe enjoyed the most, was the most unique, and also, in my case, what delivered and being a flagship title for new hardware, being the Playdate. So my choice is Kita Takahashi, the creator of Katamari Damacy. He made, with a team, Kraken's time travel adventure on Playdate. Wow. And he managed to make it so the whole UI and everything is just used by the little crank in the Playdate, which is impressive. It's hard to figure out that stuff when nobody's done it before. It's like they had to do it the first time, and I feel they delivered. So, this game is basically about kind of like wooden block toy man, always being asleep and realizing he is late for his hot date. And he has to make it through a series of obstacles, I think 50 of them, going forward and backwards with the crank to avoid enemies like butterflies, birds, pigs, all sorts of crazy stuff to get to his date. And the thing is, it's so whimsical with the hilarious sounds and stuff they add to it, like a guitar riff when you land over a hurdle, or like a flute playing to tell you a butterfly is coming. And to think of it in creative ways to use time going forward and backwards to avoid these, because it's pixel perfect collision, one hit and you're back to the level. It's very clean.
Is it the Dark Souls of the Playdate?
No, it's not like that. It's short levels. And when you do get to your date, you're always late. She'll do things like kick you in the nuts or suplex you, which you go forward and back to time, which is hilarious. And it's going to be really memorable for me. I'll enjoy it. It feels like it's not like a Half-Life Alyx or Mario 64 that really like define hardware in that way, but for Playdate on its smaller scale, I felt like it did a tremendous job. And now I know there's a small poop enemy that makes fart noises as it goes across the screen, but let's be real, even in great games have little crap to deal with.
Oh man, well Tom definitely wins for the presentation alone.
We need to just we just need to end it there. Sorry, Jake and Tris.
That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. I'm so enamored by the idea of this now. I love that he's getting to a date. I looked him up. I've got him next to me. He's a very funny little block man.
I think everyone looked it up.
Yeah. This is Tom, I want to ask. This is kind of a silly question. What did this game make you feel? What was the primary emotion?
I think a joy. Like, Kita Takahashi, like, the way he thinks about games is different than other game designers, and just so playful. It just, like, playing it today even, just revisiting it, just a feeling of joy and laughing and just having fun. Something, you know, I don't always experience, like, in a different way than other games.
Yeah, I really like that idea, Tom, because I feel like this comes up in literature seminars a lot, how it's like, why don't we see joy as worthy art? Like, why does joy kind of make something a lesser art or lower brow? And to have something like this that just inspires that feeling, that lightness, I think is such a creative achievement. That's really cool. Wow, I gotta check that out somehow. Gotta get my hands on one of these little yellow knobby boys.
Yeah, every single time I hear about the Playdate from you, Tom, I'm like, so interested in everything it has to present. Because every time I hear about it from you, I hear about a different game, which is what's so impressive to me about it. It's never like the one same game being sold on it that you bring up. It's always a different game, and especially in this case, that it's enough that it was your game of the year for using its unique systems on the Playdate. That's incredibly fascinating, and I love hearing about that. And the fact that this game is just so silly makes it even better.
It's pretty great. I know. I'm gonna have to play it, Tom, next time I see you in person. So
Yeah, I'll bring it. You can start from the beginning.
All right, let's move on to Tris. Tris, what is your overall game of 2022?
All right. Well, I'm sure any of our viewers that have kept up with any of our content surrounding Game of the Year probably know this from me already at this point. But for me, that has to be Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have to admit, when this game was announced, I was like, oh, neat, a new Xenoblade, and I didn't really think much more about it. But then, like, the game actually came out, and leading up to it, I was getting really excited for it, and the game actually came out. The original Xenoblade Chronicles is one of my favorite games of all time, and this managed to meet that. This managed to take a world that I already loved, do a completely new spin on it, to create a brand new world, filled with a ton of characters that I really, really like, can't get enough of, and make the Xenoblade Chronicles gameplay systems and gameplay mechanics even better to something I had so much trouble putting down. Pretty much until Splatoon came out, because that was the only thing that let me put that game down. I kept going back to Xenoblade, and I'm like eagerly awaiting like its DLC to be able to go back to it even more. I'm not one to normally go and want to 100% really long, lengthy like JRPGs, because that's just a huge time sink. But this is like the first one where I feel so motivated to do that. Where anytime I find myself just busy with other games and I can't get back to going back to 100% it, I start thinking about when I'm going to go back to do that. And that's impressive to me because of how much this game has actually like remained in that headspace for me. You know, it's not I completed the story and all right, I'm done. It's I keep thinking about wanting to go back to it, try out different character builds, try out ways to improve the party and get the most out of the gameplay mechanics in this game.
Tris, I want to ask you a question about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I feel that this is the question everyone wants to ask and is too afraid to.
Uh-oh.
I've been thinking about this a lot ever since it was like up for Game of the Year, and I want to ask a true blue Xenoblade fan this question.
Okay.
Is the story, is the narrative actually good, or do you have to be somebody that can buy in to the world, like the anime stuff of what Xenoblade is, so that you can get there and appreciate it? Because I can't tell sometimes when it's like, because almost everybody playing this has obviously bought into the first two games and has made it here, but like, would you say, putting all of that aside, on its own, this is a good story?
I would say yes, and here's an interesting spin to what you were saying. I hated 2. I could not get into 2 because of its world, its overuse of anime tropes, the everything about 2. Could not get into it, did not like it. I think I got maybe like 8 hours in where I was like, okay, it couldn't sell me in 8 hours. It's way too long already. It's no. But 3, I was sold from like within the first 5 hours, like max. Like the story it was starting to tell was already more serious, and the fact that it takes itself seriously is what really excited me about it. Because 2 really didn't. 2 really didn't. Not until very late in the game.
Interesting.
So,
okay, cool. Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, good.
Great.
Did anyone else play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 here?
I played it for like 10 or 15 hours.
Okay.
And it's the exact same thing that happened to me with Xenoblade 1 and 2. But now both of them, but I've beaten Xenoblade 1 and 2. But my first go around, I played 10 or 15 hours and then fell off because the first 10 or 15 hours is actually a tutorial. I know this is it's nothing new to say that about Xenoblade, but it is true. And it's going to be the same with Xenoblade 3. Like, I played 10 or 15 hours of it, really liked it, but I was like, it's a bit slow. So I think over the Christmas I'll probably go back and play it. I think Xenoblade 3, from what I've played, well, it is a lot more serious than Xenoblade 2. Even though I did actually enjoy Xenoblade 2, but I'm not into anime or, any of that sort of stuff. But I think Xenoblade 3 will definitely be more for me when I do get into it.
Yeah, Xenoblade's one of those franchises, like, I am a very I don't want to say I'm a casual fan either, but like I feel like I got pretty far into Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I liked what I played of X, but I never ever finished a Xenoblade game, and it's to the point where it's just like, if I'm playing them again, I have to start it over, and I just don't have the time sink for that. Like,
they're long.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I could play a game like Elden Ring, which takes a long time too, but with Elden Ring, you can get like maybe a 15-minute session in, and like, it actually helps there's like no, I won't say there's no story, but there's no like cutscenes or anything, and when there are cutscenes, it's not super long. But with both games like Xenoblade, it's just like, okay, I have like maybe 20 or 30 minutes to play. How long am I going to spend watching a cutscene?
20 minutes.
Yeah, so they get very lengthy. They get very lengthy with their story.
That's another reason why I haven't started Persona 5 yet. Because the games I want to play right now, I need to play. I want to play. I don't want to watch anything.
So I think it sounds like it's a testament to how good Xenoblade Chronicles 3 ultimately is, that it's worth the time investment, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's worth putting in the 100 so hours, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a pretty good payoff to that story. Is that... It delivers in the end?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, for me, like, it just to put into perspective to kind of like what Jake was saying of, like, you know, compared to what the first two games kind of set up and the fans of those games for 3, I would put the story of 3 as good as the story of 1, which is very highly critically acclaimed. Like, people vastly consider it one of the greatest of all time, the original Xenoblade. And I would put this up there with it.
Awesome. Good. I wish I had more time to to even plan on spending time with it, but
you would if you didn't just keep playing Fortnite all the time.
That's true.
And Among Us VR and watching Avatar: Way of the Water 3 times in theaters.
I've only seen it once so far, Joey.
So far.
As of recording this.
Oh yeah. All right. I think that leaves us with one game of the year left, if I've counted correctly. Jake, lay it on us. What is your game of 2022?
Yeah, so listen, my game of the year is Multiverses. And I know that this isn't going to set the world on fire. I know this isn't like the hottest thing I can bring to the table right now. But if I'm being emotionally honest with myself about the game that I just enjoyed the most this year, that I felt my time was best spent in, it was Multiverses. You guys know I love fighting games. And I think the thing that this game does that is special and really lights something up in me is that Super Smash Bros., the franchise, is in one of these very unique positions when you talk about video game genres, in that it not only, I think, invented one, but defines it to such a profound degree that I think anytime you pick up a game that looks like Smash Bros. And have it in your hands in the controller, your brain is hardwired to expect it to play and control a certain way. And that works against so many games that maybe want you to focus on or play in a different way. It's like this idea that it's ready at hand. You know what I mean? Like when you drive a car, you don't think about how the car works. It just goes how your brain thinks it's gonna go. And that's how I think Smash Brothers is. And I think that's the genius of Sakurai, is that he understands that expectation meeting the reality of you pressing the buttons. And with all of that in tow, to have a game like Multiverses and it looks so much like Smash and the ideas behind it are so much like Smash, up to the percentage point health bars, and it's good. It's good! Like, I can't believe it's good! And it makes me so happy that, like, my favorite franchise of all time has a game now in this space that is an online game that's doing events, that's updating with characters constantly, and lets me play as my favorite fictional character of all time, Superman. Like, it just... I can't believe it's good. I was emotionally prepared for this game not to be good. And the fact that it delivers, the fact that I like playing a Superman, the fact that I feel like these movesets are made with intention. They ask themselves, how should this character play? What should you be thinking about and doing? And it's like, well, Superman can fly, so he should be able to carry people off the stage, push them off and off, further and further and further. When Superman fights, it's not about combos. It's not about this. It's about this. It's about pushing apart. It's about and it makes sense. And that's different from how Batman plays, and that's different from how this character plays. And they're creating archetypes in this genre that just had its ultimate game, and then a character comes out like Gizmo or Marvin the Martian, and they don't play like any Smash character. They play like a brand new thing. Sakurai would be proud. Multiverses is my game of the year.
Multiverses continues to impress me every time I boot that game up. The variety of characters picked, the way the characters represent the series they come from, the game they come from, whether it's part of their moveset, part of their special costumes, or the map. Like, sure, okay, it doesn't have Smash's like day-long soundtrack, but it has incredible choices made in its representation and gameplay feel. And I think that's what's really important, because I feel like even as far back as like the Iron Giant being added to Multiverses, you look at that moveset and you're like, Sakurai would never have done that. What is going on here? And you just think, oh, this character's too big. This character feels broken. This never would fly in Smash. And yet it does here really, really well at that. And I think that's what makes Multiverses stand out on its own so much. It's not just a Smash clone. Its origins, its inspirations are Smash. And that's very distinct.
Wow. Yeah, we were both wowed. That was really good explanation. I haven't touched
Jake, I totally get it. I totally get it, Jake.
I haven't touched this game yet. Maybe I will after hearing that.
There's so many things I've been complaining about with like some online games lately. The fact that this has cross-play and cross-progression between, I can play it on my Steam Deck and it's perfect there. And then I pick up and I have the same like progress and stuff on my PlayStation account. That means a lot to me. The voice acting is like really good and fun and actually adds something to the game. Variants taking the idea of costumes and saying, well, what if we put maximum effort into this? What if they had like different little like intro, outro, victory, loss animations, different entire voice actors playing as Black Lantern Superman, and all of a sudden he goes from like, oh, truth and justice to I'm gonna eat your soul. Like, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited about the future of the game. And I always say this to people, I think some video games, for me, the enjoyment of them is like a professional sport. Half of what's happening is what's happening on the field. The other half is following it, is being a fan of it. I really like when you sit somebody down that doesn't play games and you try to show them a game you like, and you're like, oh, why isn't this coming across the way? Because that's only half the game. You know what I mean? We have this conversation we're all a part of, the context. And I think this fighting game, player first games, they have grit. They're like transparent with the audience. They're like figuring things out. There's a constant communication with the fan base. It's like, it feels like you're part of something. And I really love Multiverse.
They really are in with the fan base.
Awesome.
Like Tony, the main lead, retweeting like fan art all the time, or fan concepts all the time, like showing a high level of like community engagement that you would never see in some of these other bigger games.
Oh, Smash Brothers, you see almost none of that. Like, they don't even promote the custom stuff you can make in the game, like arenas, for instance, which is something Nintendo could really better embrace. I mean, it's weird. They have all these games where you can create stuff and they do nothing to promote it. You know, Mario Maker, Jack, they do nothing with it. So, yeah.
They're worried somebody's gonna hide in some anatomy in there, I guess.
That's right. And also, forgot to mention, 4-player rollback netcode.
That is awesome. That is another thing Smash needs desperately.
And it works.
And it feels so good.
And it works. It feels good. Yeah, you don't feel bad playing online like you do with
that is like legit a game changer. Like, Smash for me is basically unplayable online because I just can't stand it. It just does not feel good online. Whereas it sounds like Multiverses does, and that's great.
Yeah.
So.
Doesn't Nick All-Stars have rollback netcode?
Yeah, can I tell you what the problem is with Nick All-Stars really quick? Why it's not this?
I mean, sure.
So for me,
Joey's regretting.
So for me, part of the genius of Smash is the readability. You see attacks, you understand their hitboxes, hurtboxes. All that information is cleanly communicated. Nick All-Stars doesn't have that. It's made for a different community that has that information locked in the back of their brains and doesn't need to see it. I'm a little bit away from that, more towards there's a readability in Multiverses that is. The communication of the game is something that's paid attention to, which is proven by its suite of incredible accessibility options. The way that you can highlight your characters, change the menus, change the UI. it sets it apart in a really big, meaningful way.
Nice.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I think that is a great argument for Multiverse. That I definitely need to check it out more. Because I am a Smash fan, but Smash, you know, is over with. So time to check out Multiverses. Before we fully wrap it up here, any surprises? Like anything surprised about any of our picks here? Anything that we weren't expecting that we were caught off guard by? No.
I guess. Yeah, Tom. But to be well, actually, no. Now that I say that, I'm always expecting Tom to talk about some sort of obscure indie game or, you know, something like that. So maybe actually no, it wasn't that surprising.
Sure.
To be honest, I thought Jake, when he started his game of the year, I thought he was gonna say Gotham Knights for whatever reason. And I would have just left this call and just said I'm never working with you again because
Maximum chaos.
Like, it's literally one of the worst games I've ever played.
Wow.
I played it for like, I don't know, 5 hours with my friend, and he wanted to get the platinum on PlayStation, and I just told him, I was like, look, David, we game shared it. It was like, I spent $37.50 on this game, and I don't care. I don't want to finish it.
Yeah. That always sucks when you spend money on something that you just don't want to play.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah.
Any other surprises from any of us?
I'll say, André, I was interested what your choice would end up being. But I guess you did say Among Us VR earlier, but just if there was going to be a Nintendo game that maybe supplanted Fortnite. And Jake, I knew you liked multiverses. I guess I should have expected more, but I was like, I'm still wondering, like, what will it be for you? Because I guess you kind of didn't mention multiverses much earlier. I should have known, but I was just curious to see what you would pick in the end.
It's tough because I'm somebody that loves narrative and I love hearing about what the stories that resonate with people, but there's a simple beauty in these fighting games, man, that I just can't resist. I was also surprised by Andre's Fortnite pick. We had our conversation yesterday about what we could choose, and I thought that was a meaningless conversation. I was like, nobody's gonna pick anything that isn't obviously a 2022 game. And then it totally went over my head that that's what we were talking about.
Even used Fortnite as an example, I think that came up at some point during it.
It was foreshadowing.
Yeah, so that was a nice surprise. I also just really enjoy hearing Elden Ring enjoyers to this degree. Because that game, it didn't land for me like as the masterpiece that it did for a lot of people, but like I get it. I think that really just comes down to like our different personal preferences because I see it so clearly. And I think that's really sweet, and I think that game did a lot for a lot of people, so it's always cool to get that perspective.
It's very much evocative, I think, maybe to a little bit lesser degree, but Breath of the Wild is something similar too, where like people who are fully on board the train like loved it, and there were some others who were like, you know, it's good, but it's not, you know, not quite. I'm not quite seeing in it what others are. So, sorry, go ahead.
I was just hearing that boss battle, Adam and Joey talking about that.
That was cool.
Joey, you mentioning like what a life event it is to you, like that reminds me of like Ocarina of Time, like how.
Cool.
Like how much that game means to me, so it's really something.
You know, for a bunch of Nintendo shills, you know, we owning one Nintendo game in the bunch, you know, isn't that
Thank you,
something?
Tris.
That's something. Gotta get that Multiverses on Switch one of these days. Yeah, maybe Switch Pro. Maybe Switch
And you
Pro.
know what? I almost made Sonic Frontiers my number 3. Almost.
Oh, yeah,
I had to remind myself. Sorry, what?
I almost did as well.
Really? Yeah,
careful, Joey's gonna leave again.
I'm surprised it wasn't on your top 3, honestly.
Oh, I mean, Kirby was just an overall like much more refined experience. If Sonic had been more refined, it probably would have been my number 3. But it did frustrate me endlessly at first. I had to overcome that barrier to really finally start appreciating it. So
yeah,
I think
meanwhile, Kirby just didn't have a barrier. It was perfect from the very beginning,
pretty much. Yeah,
it was so hard to narrow down my top 3 in general too, because like Jake, Multiverses was my number 4. Like it's up there for me this year. So like I was ready to talk about it if you were. So that's why I was excited that you brought it up. But
makes
like
my heart sing.
Like so much of what I played this year was like old. Like I finally went through Mother 3 this year, for example. Like I've been through games that weren't released this year, or games that came out last year that I finally got to this year. So it was tough to narrow it down because I'm like, well, how much did I play this year that really was this year?
Yeah, I also have a serious case of FOMO, so I did play a lot of like the newer releases that were coming out. Yeah, and it especially helps with Game Pass. Some of them released on
Yeah.
Game Pass too. I didn't play my Switch that much this year. I did my my little 2022 review. After Kirby, it was kind of like that was really it for me when it came to the Bayonetta 3 too. I forgot Bayonetta 3 came out. Kirby was the standout Switch game for me though. Like I was just shocked at how amazing it was.
Yeah, and that was at the start of the year, almost a year ago at this point. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, go ahead, Adam.
I mean, like as well, like other than the games I've reviewed for GameXplain, I barely touch my Switch as well. It's just there's
busy year.
I feel the Switch now is just a big, whatever the big Nintendo titles are, and then one or two indies, and that's it. But now I have my Steam Deck, which is better for indies now. So I mean,
It's really, hey, listen, it's amazing if you're a Pokemon enjoyer, okay? All right.
Nice.
All right. Well, there you have it, everyone. Those are our games of the year for 2022. An overall really eclectic and interesting year, I think. Especially, we had a wide variety of games with not much overlap, so that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But we'll see how 2023 shapes up, especially as we'll be having our discussion soon, not only looking back on this year more so, but also looking ahead to 2023 and what could be possibly our games of the year then. So it should be exciting. Stay tuned for all of that. And with that, we'll catch you all later. Bye, everyone.